I believe my reason why I was put on this earth is to make cyberspace safe, to end suffering in cyberspace. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome to this week's episode of Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole. I hope you're ready. Buckle up because we are going to have so much fun. It should be illegal, right? It should not be allowed to have this much fun virtually. Right? I just love this time of the week where we get to talk about being a Chief Information Security Officer and, more important, being a world-class Chief Information Officer. And I just want to ask you a question. Let's just get things going. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it raw. Let's keep it authentic. So here we go. If you were brought up on charges of whether you were a world-class CISO, would you be found guilty of a jury of 12? Now remember, if you're not familiar with how courts work, in order to get a conviction, there has to be evidence that all 12 jurors agree with. If only 8, 9, or 10 agree, you get a hung jury. And also, I'm going to raise the bar on you. We're talking criminal here, not civil, right? We're talking in criminal beyond a reasonable doubt. So is right now, would you have enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to 12 people that you are a world-class Chief Information Security Officer, right? Just something to think about. And I love doing these exercises. I do them with myself all the time. And what it helps you do is identify where you need to improve, where you need to get better, where you need more evidence to be able to go in and show that you are a world-class CISO. So what area is it that you need to work on? What area do you need to get more experience in? Is it briefing executives? Is it on the financial side? Is it on the strategy side? Is it on the technical side? Right? You need to go in and be able to determine that because you need to improve every day. Cybersecurity is always changing, and world-class today doesn't mean world-class tomorrow. So you want to make sure you're always having a plan to improve and take yourself, your life, and your career to that next level. Now, one thing I want to start off talking today, because there still seems to be some confusion. It's funny how I think I'm very, very clear, and then I get back all these comments which go in, and I'm a big fan of 100% responsibility. So if I think I'm clear and there's misunderstanding, it's on me. So I want to really get clear on what is a Chief Information Security Officer. A Chief Information Security Officer has two core skills they must be really good at. They must be really good at cybersecurity, and they must be really good at strategy, executive, and business. You need both those skills. If you only have one of those skills, you're not going to be very effective. And if one of those skills is much, much stronger than the other skill, you're not going to be very successful. World-class CISOs can meet with the security team, understand technology, and go deep on cybersecurity. They then need to take that information and translate it into business and strategy to present it to the executives. And then they need to go in and take that information and feedback from the executives, that business strategic language, and they need to translate it back into technical to be able to present that to their technical team and implement technical solutions. That's essentially the role of a Chief Information Security Officer. They need to be able to switch back and forth between them. They need both skills. It's sort of like a baseball player. If you look at a traditional baseball player, they need to have two core skills to be world class. If you're going to play in the Major League Baseball, you have to be able to field and catch the ball, and you have to be able to hit the ball. You must need both, and you got to be able to switch back and forth between them. If you are an amazing hitter, but you can't catch, you're not going to make it. And if you're an amazing person who can catch the ball and field the ball, but you can't hit, you're also not going to make it in Major League Baseball. Now, people always bring up, but Eric, what about the pitcher? The pitcher is a specialized position, and that's the problem today. Way too many chief information security officers today, not all, so you might not be one of them, but most are really good pitchers. They know technology inside and out, but they can't hit the ball. They can't do strategy. They can't communicate to the executives. And that's the problem. Yes, if you could throw the ball, if you're an amazing pitcher that can throw the ball and you can strike out a lot of folks, guess what? You can still survive without being a good hitter. But that's not a CISO. That's the problem with CISOs today, and why you see so much struggle and such high turnover is because you promote somebody to a CISO who's a great pitcher. They know tech. They're a world-class security engineer. They are the best security engineer, and I would love to have them on my team. But when you put them in front of the executives, when you put them in front of the plate, they can't hit. Right? They can't hit the ball. Right? And that's going to be problematic. That's going to cause issues and challenges. So you want to make sure that you evaluate where you are today. On a scale from 1 to 10, you go in, and how would you rate your technical skills? And how would you rate your business strategy skills? Now, I find the 1 through 10 isn't great because you really have two groups of people. You have some people that will give themselves 10 no matter what they have, and they'll be like, I'm good, and you're not, right? And then you have other people, which I find more of, where they'll give themselves 1s on both things, and they're really much, much better than that. There's not a lot of people, right, that can really honestly assess when you're just doing 1 through 10. That's why I like evidence in a court of law, because now you're not picking a number. You're going back to the evidence. Great. If you're telling me that you are an 8 on the security engineer, the technical side, where's the evidence? Give me the evidence to convince folks of what's going on. And based on the evidence or the lack of evidence, that number might go up or down. And the same thing on the business strategic side of the house. So just to be crystal clear, a world-class CISO must have both. I have a lot of people that have been saying, Eric, you focus all on strategy and business and tactics, but I disagree. A world-class CISO must also have technical cybersecurity skills. Absolutely. I never said they didn't. But here's what I found. Most, not all, right? So you might be the exception, but most people that get into CISO positions today tend to have a background and be very, very strong on the security side. So when I evaluate and work with and deal with a lot of people that want to be CISOs or currently CISOs and are struggling, in my analysis, 88% of them are really, really strong on the cybersecurity technical side. And less than 10% of them are strong on the strategy and the business side. So therefore, because I want to help everyone be a world-class CISO, and if most of the people listening are strong on the security and not strong on the strategy and business, what do you think I'm going to focus on? That's why a lot of my episodes, not all, but a lot of the episodes are really focusing on the business and the strategy and building that up. It's because most folks, to get world-class, that's what they need to work on. They are amazing in the field. They can catch any ball, right? They're always on the highlight reels, right? Doing the double backflips, catching the balls. They're amazing at fielding the ball and getting folks out. But when they get behind the plate, they can't hit. Right? They cannot hit the ball. So if I'm a coach and I want to help you, and that's what you're at, where I'm going to focus most of my energy. I'm going to focus most of my energy on hitting. Right? We're going to spend a little bit of time in the field. Make sure you keep that skill up. Make sure you stay in good shape. But most of my time with you, if I want to get you to be world-class baseball player and you can't hit, we're going to be behind the plate. We're going to be in the batting cage. We're going to have you swinging that bat, and we're going to be teaching you what you need to do to be able to hit the ball. And that's essentially what I find with a lot of my clients, and a lot of the focus on my Life of a CISO podcast is it's all about getting you to hit that ball, which is talking, communicating strategy with the executives. Now, one of the big things we always have to remember is, are you effectively communicating with the person you're talking with? Just want to take a quick break. I hope you're enjoying the show. I have this free webinar that I would love for you to check out if you want to become a world-class CISO. And to have effective communication, you need to speak their language. You need to speak in a way that they understand and they can learn and they can take away what you're saying. Now, two pieces of that. First, there's a lot of phrases out there that people use, and they sound cool, and they might seem good, and they roll off the tongue, but they're just not true. There's just not any truth to it, right? And the first one was one that I always grew up with, is treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, guess what? And I'm glad. There's not a lot of Erics in the world. Trust me, if I had to work with and deal with me, I'd be going crazy, right? I'd go to the top of a building and probably jump. I know I'm nuts, right? I know I'm a little crazy, right? One of my sayings I recognize is success and insanity are next door neighbors, and there's no fences between the houses, right? You go back and forth between them. So I fully am aware that I have my quirks. I could drive people a little crazy, and I could be a little nuts at times. I fully own it, which means I don't want to work with a bunch of Erics. I love diversity, right? I want a lot of different smart people around me so we can go in and accomplish amazing things. So if I'm going in and assuming everyone is exactly like me and treating them the way I want to be treated, that's going to be devastating, because guess what? They're not, right? Everyone learns and everyone wants to be communicated in a different manner. So here's the real phrase. The real phrase is treat people the way they want to be treated. Understand who you're communicating with. Understand what's important to them. Understand what's the language they like. And how do they learn? Do they like analogies? Do they like diagrams? Do they want facts? Do they want numbers? Do they want spreadsheets? Because once again, in order for you to be successful and be a world-class CISO, you must be able to communicate with executives, which means you must speak their language. And that's one of the reasons, and this is probably one of the biggest ones I get the most criticism on, is the longer you're a world-class security engineer, the harder it is for you to be a CISO. Not impossible, but harder, and here's why. The longer you do something, the more comfortable you become at it. The more you do something, the more that becomes your natural language. The more you do something, the more you get comfortable in communicating with people that are just like you. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but in most of the cases where you have CISOs that are just not getting it done, they just can't communicate with the execs, they're not able to connect or talk in their language, usually, not always, it's because they've been world-class security engineers for 12 to 15 years. Now, if you've been a world-class security engineer for 15 years, that's your world, that's your language, that's your group, that's your tribe, that's what you love. So if you're not super, super careful and super, super aware, when you go and talk to the execs, that's going to be your default mode. You're going to go back to that mode of operation, which is not going to go well because executives don't understand tech. Now, have I seen some people able to transition? And have I seen some people who have been security engineers for 15 years, world-class engineers, become world-class CISOs? Yes, but it's few and far between. And I'm saying that because if right now you're listening to this and you have 15 years being a world-class security engineer and you want to switch, you can. But I always ask a few questions. The first one is that what you really want to do? Is that what you really love? Because if you've been doing something for 15 years, unless you just hate yourself and unless you like being miserable, I would like to assume that you enjoy it, right? That you're having fun, right? That's potentially your purpose. So if you're loving being a world-class security engineer and that's your mojo and that's what you love, my question is, why would you want to do something different? Why would you want to go in and do something other than what you love? Now, yes, and it did happen with me. I still feel I can do both, but I'm all about greatest good, and I feel that my purpose is to make cyberspace a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. I believe my reason why I was put on this earth is to make cyberspace safe, to end suffering in cyberspace. Huge, audacious goal and purpose, but I believe that's why I'm here. And in the beginning of my career, I felt there wasn't enough security people, so I focused on technical. And if you saw that with the courses, the training, the work, and the books that I wrote, it's aligned with that. And then if you look at the last 5 years, what I realized is there's plenty of technical folks and there's really good training out there. I don't need to focus on that. I need to focus on the strategy, the communication, and the awareness. That's where there's a gap. And if you see what I've written and what I focused on the last couple of years, it's aligned with that. So you could technically say that I sort of transitioned from being technical as my primary focus, I can still do tech, to now being strategic because I feel where that's the need is. But it's driven by my purpose and I love everything that I do. So just make sure that if you're that person that has that 15 years and you're a world-class security engineer, that you really want to make the switch, that that's really aligned with your purpose. And then here's the other big one. Are you willing to learn a whole new discipline? Because a lot of world-class security engineers, yes, you always have to learn to be in cyber. But if you've been doing it for 15 years and you're world-class, you're probably more at the maintenance. Right? You probably don't have to study 4 to 5 hours a day. You don't have to study on weekends. Right? You can continue being world-class. But if you're going to switch to a CISO and you've been world-class security engineer for 15 years, you're going to have to learn a whole new area. You're going to have to, for a couple weeks, couple months, potentially put in a couple hours an evening, learning, understanding, growing. So I just always want to caveat that. It can be done, but it's harder. That's why what I find most of the world-class CISOs that I've seen built, trained, are usually folks that have the security engineering for 3 to 5 years. They've been doing it. They know it. They're getting close to sort of, if they continue to be world-class, but they really enjoy the big picture. They enjoy cyber, but they really enjoy that bigger strategy picture. That's sort of that ideal transition. That has the highest rate of success. Now, once again, if you're an outlier, I'm not saying you can't, right? Absolutely you can, but just a little harder. Have I seen folks that have come out of business school with strong business backgrounds and no cybersecurity experience become successful CISOs? Yes. But once again, just like the other case, if you've been 15 years as a world-class security engineer, you have to learn the other discipline. So I have seen a few go in and learn that. But once again, if you've come out of business school and you're world-class at business, and that's what you really enjoy, why do you want to switch where you have to learn a whole new technical field in cybersecurity? Now, some people love that. Some people have that drive. But once again, is that what you really want to do? Because those outliers, the folks that are really strong on business or the world-class security engineers, I find the ones that have the drive and the focus and the discipline are successful. The others aren't. Because it sounds like a cool title. It sounds like a cool position, but their heart isn't into it. You got to have your heart to be world-class. So that's why I typically focus in on that 3 to 5 year. So first thing is you have to speak their language. You have to go in and be able to communicate the way they want to be communicated with. Now, it can be learned. It's not that hard. and I'll help you out here. When you talk to world-class security engineers, when you talk to technical people, we love our slides, we love our data, we love our tech. So if you're going in and getting briefed or briefing security engineers, and you have a 30, 40 slide deck that has a ton of information on it, and they're talking about false positives and reduction and correlation and analytics, awesome. Executives could care less. They don't care about that. So my first rule is, if you're going in to an executive briefing as a CISO or a deputy CISO or somebody that wants to be a CISO, and you're briefing an executive board and you have more than 10 slides, once again, could you be the anomaly? Maybe. But once again, I would have bet a lot of money on it. You're probably not going to be successful. Couple slides. When I go in, the meat of my presentation is one slide. I'll sometimes maybe have a couple of intro, outro. So if I'm being truly honest with you, when I'm briefing some executives, I might have a title slide. I might have a little background slide about me and Secure Anchor, because once again, I'm giving them ahead of time. So that's a read ahead. Then I don't spend any time in my briefing. I then might talk a little bit about the threats that are out there for their industry, give a couple of stats to show that that's real, show them why cybersecurity is their responsibility, and then I go in to essentially a single slide, which is what executives care about are four things. What could happen, likelihood of it happening, cost if it occurs, and cost to fix it. That's really what it comes down to. So when you're really briefing executives and you're asking for money and you want money, that's what you go in with. What could happen? We could get hit with an attack that makes all of our data inaccessible. Now, ransomware, whether that's a technical term or not, the fact that it's becoming common knowledge, I might put that in there. So I might say ransomware, all of our data is inaccessible. But that's sort of the extent of tech. We're not going super tech here. And I'm saying there's an 80% chance it could occur. If it occurs, it will cost us $1 million, and I'm asking for $200K to fix it. And once again, I don't care, because I did my job. I made them aware that there's an 80% risk of us losing $1 million. I made them fully aware of that. Now, as a business executive, they might choose to accept that risk. There might be drivers or reasons that we don't know that they might decide to accept that risk. I made them aware of it. That's my job. I also gave them a solution. Now, if I was in those shoes, to spend $200K to reduce an 80% risk that could cost $1 million, that seems pretty good. So I would probably do that. But once again, I'm not the CEO today. I'm the CISO, and I'm making them fully aware. So a couple things that are very powerful of speaking in their language. First, it's dollars and cents. One of the problems that security people have is they're like, Eric, I don't know that. How can I say 80? It might be 79, it might be 83, it might be 85. You're right, but pick a number. Here's the problem. Security folks, because we're talking about risk of future events, they prefer qualitative. They prefer high, medium, and low. Or they prefer upper, medium, lower, or nil, right? Put it another way. Most security people would be very comfortable if I said, okay, ransomware to your organization. Is it 1 through 25% of happening, 26 to 50% chance of happening, 51 to 75% chance of happening, or 76 to 100% chance of happening? Which one? You could probably pick that quadrant pretty easily. Here's the problem. That doesn't work for executives. Going in and saying, there's a high probability that something really, really bad could happen. Did I say it was really, really bad? That doesn't help them. So what you have to do is, if it's upper quadrile, if you're saying it's 76 to 100%, pick one. 80, 85, 90. It's a rounding error whether it's off, but saying there's a high chance of this happening and it's 80% is completely different mindset between you and the executives. The executives need numbers. You're an expert. It's your expert opinion. You're not saying it's not 79 or 81. You're just going in and giving an expert opinion. Once again, you might go, but Eric, it's probably between 800,000 to 1.2 million that we get hit with ransomware. Great, pick a million. Once again, don't overthink this. The executives need exact numbers. I know many world-class security engineers don't feel comfortable with exact numbers, but that's what you need to do. You need to give it to them in a language they understand and they could take action on. So that's the key factor there. That's all you're giving them. Now, I have, when I do CISO, vCISO coaching or other executive briefings, I have an extremely high percentage of getting the money that I want. And the reason is simple. I know how executives think. I think like an executive. I have my own company. And I know what no-brainer decisions are versus bad decisions. So I only present what I call no-brainer risks. So for example, if there's something that has a 95% chance of occurring and it's going to cost our business $30 million and I could fix it with $200K, that's a no-brainer, of course, right? So that's what I'm going to present to them. Now, if there's something that has a 45% chance of occurring, could cost the company $1 million, and I want $500K to fix it, probably not. Why? Because less than 50%, even if it was 60 or 70, but it's going to be $1 million if it does happen, which is low probability, but you want to spend half of that guaranteed. So why would I spend $500K on something that might or might not cost me just double of that? That doesn't necessarily make sense for me to do that. Some environments, yes, some environments not. But I would never present that to the executives. So now you're seeing where that CISO is actually building trust and becoming that advisor, because what executives are going to see is this. Every time the CISO presents to us and makes recommendations, we always agree with them. They're always right, which means they think and act like us, and we can give them more responsibility and more trust. On the other hand, if every time you brief the executives, you don't speak English, they don't understand what you're saying, or they don't agree with you, you're going to walk out of the meeting and going to be like, I know we need a CISO, but they're just not getting it, right? They're just not getting on board with the program, right? They're just not speaking our language. And once again, here's a great indicator for you. Two great indicators. First, how often do you talk to the executive team? If it's, maybe Eric, if we're lucky, 2 or 3 times a year, with love in my heart, you know I care about you, so please don't get mad at me. You're not speaking their language. You're not world-class. Because if you spoke their language and they agreed and you provide value to the business and the organization, you would be in there weekly and monthly. But the fact that they don't want to talk to you at least once a quarter or once a month clearly shows that you're not providing value and data. Because I'll tell you right now, if somebody provides a ton of value and a ton of data, you want them closer to you and meet with them more often. If they don't provide value and data, you don't want them around. So that's first indicator. Second, when you do want to meet with the executives, how long does it take? Because once again, people that are trusted in the inner circle, if you go and say, I need to talk to them, you can typically get in within 24 to 48 hours unless they're traveling. So if you go in and reach out to their assistant and say, hey, I need to brief or talk with the executives, and they're like, okay, I can fit you in 3 months from now, and then the week of that meeting, it gets moved and canceled, really good indicator you're not that important to them. And you should be. If you're providing the value and the information and the details, then you should. Now, once again, it's going to take time to get there, but here's what you should be. With your executives, you should be on a regular communication and have their cell phone number in your phone. It should be something where they're texting you at least once a week and you're texting them. And when you go in and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes on a text? They make 5 minutes and they don't even go through their executive assistant. That's where you need to get to. That's your goal, and that's what you need to target. Because once again, If your executives aren't counting on you, relying on you, and meeting with you on a regular basis, once again, don't get mad at me. I'm here. I love you. I care about you. You're not world class. If you're meeting with your executives twice a year, you're not world class. Because if you're world class, you're indispensable, you're critical, and they rely on you, and they need you around. So up the game, up the language, up the communication. Because if you truly believe this is your purpose and what you want to do in the world, you can be world class. And then what I want to close with is, if you're not world class and you don't know why, ask questions. I get this all the time going, Eric, my executives don't invite me to meetings. They don't listen to me when I provide advice, and I'm getting very, very frustrated. Any advice for me? I said, yep, ask them. Ask them why. Now, once again, not open, not embarrassing. But this is one where, yes, it might take 2 months because you don't have that rapport to get the meeting. It's worth it. So tell the executives and reach out to them and say, I'd like to meet with you. And in the meeting, say, listen, I believe cybersecurity is important to this company. I believe that you believe that cybersecurity is important. But I don't believe I'm being effective. I don't feel like I'm as involved as I should be. I'd like to be more involved. I don't believe that what I say is always valuable, and therefore people don't listen to me. So could you give me some advice? What can I do to be better? What can I do to improve as a CISO? What could I do to be involved in more meetings? And what can I do to be irreplaceable to you? Now notice, when I did the criticism, it was all on me. I never said, you don't listen to me. I said, I don't feel like I'm providing advice that's actionable. So you don't want to get defensive, and then you ask the questions. We can't be afraid to get feedback, because that's how we improve, and that's how we get better. As always, I hope you loved and enjoyed this episode of Life of a CISO. If you did, please tell others, right? And if you didn't, please don't tell others. No, I'm joking. I'm sure you loved it. Post some comments if we can address any of your comments. I'd love to hear back from you. If you'd like to get more information on my mindset of how to be a CISO, Cyber Crisis is an amazing book written exactly for that purpose. If you'd like to work with me and go through my CISO certification, secureanchor.com/CISO. You get knowledge transfer, you get coaching, you get a private peer group. It's a great way to really accelerate and take your career to that next level. So I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, be safe out there.